millions of people that are listening. What do you mean?
Good morning and welcome to the Ad Hoc Committee on Economic Recovery and Reinvestment, a special meeting for Friday, March 25th, 2011. Let me start by congratulating Mr. Wesson on a roast well done last night. And we are here with Mr. Wesson and Mr. Parks. Let's go ahead and take general public comment. Do we have any? All right, let's go to item number 1 then. Updates. Good morning.
Good morning. Morning. Is it on? Okay. Rhonda Gaston with the Community Development Department. If I may, I will provide an overview of the EECBG grant that was awarded to the city and give you a few stats related to the expenditures.
What is the EECBG, just for the uninitiated? Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant. And this is a new part of the stimulus package for those who are following. It was a new area of block grant around energy efficiency conservation. Thanks.
Great. I will...
Can I start real quick as well? And good morning, Councilmember.
Good morning.
Romel Pasquale, Deputy Mayor for Energy and Environment. And before Rhonda goes through more of the details of the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant, I just want to give you some context. As we all know, that reminder of how we got to this point in some of our coordination efforts directly within our office and also in coordination with this committee and Councilmember Perry's office in the very beginning, and looking to see how we spend the $37 million of energy efficiency block grant that we received. We focused on the three critical areas, which were community, municipal, and commercial areas. And so many of the departments that are here today will certainly provide you with those updates. And the target that we're looking at is to get to our Department of Energy target of 50% in June. So that's the context here, and I just wanted to say that before Rhonda went right into the details.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And again, what I will do is start out by giving you some statistics related to the actual dollar amounts awarded to the city and our expenditure rates, move into some discussion about CDD's role and responsibility related to grants management and our implementation of one of the 15 projects in the energy efficiency block grant. Thereafter, we'll turn it over to the mayor's office to discuss their role and responsibilities, and then we have representatives from each of the implementing departments to come to the table to speak more specifically to their line items. We have a total of $37,017,900 that were awarded to the city by the Department of Energy. The grant award period is from July 09 to July 12. Currently, we have expended to date about 14% or $5.1 million of those dollars. But if I can just take you back and explain that the expenditures don't necessarily correlate with the grant award date. Although the grant award was given to the city in July 09, there was some time taken by DOE to approve a strategy that the city had to put forth in terms of our programs and our expenditures. That was approved by DOE in March of 2010, and council actually acted and accepted the conditions of the award in June 2010. So actually, the 14% expenditure rate is beginning June 2010. We have, as with all our grants, part of the overall intent is to provide job creation and retention in the city. However, one of the more immediate outcomes that we need to actually ensure is the actual cost savings that will actually generate longer-term efficiencies in the city in terms of making the city more greener, not only the city but the nation. The city strategy includes 14 program areas and 15 projects implemented by several different city departments, including CDD. Those projects are in varying stages of implementations, some more complete than others, and it all depends on the complexity of the program structure, and each of the departments can speak to any challenges that they have faced in terms of implementation. In terms of CDD's role, we actually manage the administration of the grant. That was actually given to the department in June 10, and we were allocated 5 positions to actually manage the grant, including a senior accountant, an accountant 2 management analysts. I think there are 2 of those and 1 senior officer. We don't have any of those staff aboard yet. We are actually managing the grant with staff, current existing staff. It has taken us quite some time to get through the managed hiring process. The last step being completed last month for us to actually go ahead and start hiring folks. We have made an offer to 1 management analyst thus far. But we have incurred a hurdle in terms of hiring an environmental affairs office. There seems to be a limited number of positions in the city. So you do have before you, I think on agenda item number 2, a report from CDD that requests for some particular actions. We'd like to amend that report to ask that we be allowed to exempt the environmental affairs officer so that we can cast a wider net to get a greater candidate pool and get someone aboard as quickly as possible to have oversight of this grant. Those 5 positions account for $1.5 million of the $37 million. Through March, CDD has expended $343,000 of that 1.5, or 23% of the dollars. Once we have all staff aboard, we expect our trajectory to change, and we look to expend about 1.4 of the 1.5. The savings are of $100,000 we are recommending to be transferred out of CDD's admin line item into the green workforce line item. CDD is managing that project. We were awarded $750,000. That was all passed through to contractors. We have 2 contractors, UAW and the Urban League. We didn't charge any staff costs, so we would like to use that $100,000 so that we can actually begin to charge for CDD staff time that has been expended and actually moving that piece of the grant forward. In terms of the activities of the Green Workforce Program, again, we have 2 contractors, Urban League and UAW. Of that $750,000 total, that's split between the two, 64% of those dollars have been expended, and we expect full expenditure by June 2011. The actual activities undertaken is to actually prepare folks to be ready in green industries, including green transportation, landscape, and green building retrofits. We have a total of 40 participants in the UAW program and have successfully placed 14 of those participants in jobs for a 35% rate. For Urban League, there are 160 participants working on energy audits, green building, and landscape retrofit, and I don't have the detail in terms of the job placement there, but I'm assuming it's equally successful to UAW. We have been working with the mayor's office, both Rommel and the mayor's audit team, to ensure that expenditures are on track. So again, in item number 2, there are a couple of recommendations to move money between line items so that we can continue to see cash flow, positive cash flows and actual expenditures moving that will allow us to fully expend the grant by the deadline. But I do want to focus on some of the value added the CDD brings to the table, given that the department was asked to be the lead. Our role is to do grants management. We bring to the table financial management, accounting, and auditing. We also will, as soon as we get staff aboard, we'll be able to bring in a monitoring aspect to ensure compliance related to EECBG regulations. We regularly liaise with the Department on Energy, making sure that all of their queries are responded to in a timely manner. CDD has accompanied DOE on 2 site visits. We have a report back from the first visit that was conducted in December, and there are no findings actually at all. The last site visit was conducted in March, and we don't have a report there yet, but we don't expect any findings there. That in a nutshell is CDD's role. I can turn it over to Romeo right now, who can talk more about the overarching strategy developed by the mayor's office.
Great, thank you. Romel Pascual, Deputy Mayor for Energy and Environment. As you recall, back almost a year and a half ago, the way in which we got to this place was to go to communities and ask what do they want to see the funding go to. And what we've heard was funding certainly to communities directly to go to nonprofits and to affect jobs on the ground, but also managing our own shop, our own buildings, and our own municipal actions, as well as benefiting commercial actions around energy efficiency, and you'll hear this from the different departments as to the progress of those. But for the mayor's office, our role has been specifically to make sure that the expenditure plan gets expended, make sure that the project deadlines get met. We have 2 programmatic aspects to the mayor's office's role, one of which is our climate action plan, which is moving forward in partnership with UCLA to do a fairly cutting-edge study. And then the other piece, which is critically important, is accountability and transparency, which is to show folks, show the community, show Angelinos how resources are being expended. And we have a video that we'd like to show in terms of an example of getting the word out, and we're going to be if we have time, I have a feeling we probably don't, but we do have videos that will show progress on pieces of the ARA funding, but also we're looking to do videos and new media outreach and all of the programs. But for this particular transfer into the mayor's office of resources is to ensure that we continue our monitoring efforts more aggressively, because we have to meet a June deadline of 50%. Additionally, we're looking for to support Ciclavia, which is a very important piece of work around the reduction of greenhouse gases. It meets the criteria within DOE. The conversations with DOE have occurred. They're excited about this. It reaches more people than many of the programs. Last year we had approximately 50 to some say about 100,000 people. The estimates of greenhouse gas reduction is pretty significant. If we were to look at 100,000, taking 100,000 cars off the road, we would look at about 500,000 tons of greenhouse gas reduced annually, but if you were to calculate that on a per day basis, it's quite significant as well. So those are the transfers that are going to occur, as well as looking to roll out a program to ensure that employees do an environmental management system approach throughout the whole, not just City Hall, but all of the employees to do energy efficiency reduction programs in their particular cubicles and their offices. And I have Beth Jones here from the Mayor's Office, Director of Sustainability, should you have any more questions.
Okay. I know we have a lot of different programs, and we probably won't necessarily be able to get to each of them, colleagues, so any ones that jump out of particular interest. I think there's been a request from DWP to come forward and talk a little bit about their involvement first, if they'd like to come up. Is that correct? Yeah? Okay. Good morning.
I'm Lorraine Pasquette. I'm Senior Assistant General Manager for Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. I'm here with Gretchen Hardison. She oversees our programs, and the programs fit within my organization. So what we have for you is an overview of each program, but before we jump into that, I want to do a time check and see what your interest is in getting a summary on the 5 programs that we oversee.
Let me find your tab real quick. These are the enhanced utility incentives for whole house fans and cool roofs, the energy efficiency retrofits for nonprofit organizations, a study of on-bill financing, and then community outreach, research, and public education grants for nonprofit organizations, and single-family residential financing whole house retrofit rebate programs. Why don't you approach them instead of programmatically? Why don't you approach them kind of topically and audience? I think there's a couple nonprofits, there's a couple residential. What is in kind of just plain English terms, what is Department of Water and Power seeking to do with stimulus funds in these programs, the EECBG dollars for the average resident of Los Angeles? What sorts of programs, and what are your goals for how many people you're going to touch with those?
So for the programs cover a variety of different strategies for the average resident, but also the average nonprofit. We folded nonprofits into some of the goals that we're doing with the grant funds. Maybe what I'll do is jump into the easiest, which is the on-bill financing study. This is an area where we look at the possibility of financing some energy efficiency upgrades through your bill. And it's a concept that isn't part of our current complement of energy efficiency items that we offer through the program. So this is an opportunity with grant funds to take a few months, look at the possibility of adding this as a strategy to our energy efficiency programs and reporting back to this committee and our commission. We have moved forward on this piece of it. We have a third party who's going to look at the feasibility of offering this program, and we should have the results of that study within the next 3 to 6 months that we can bring back to you. Another component is the community outreach.
This is primarily for multifamily, not for single family?
Multifamily, that's right.
Okay.
Yes. The community outreach, research, and public education grants is an area that we're working with some of our community-based organizations. We're very appreciative of the assistance that we receive from each council office. And as this committee knows, each council office worked closely to select 2 organizations to receive grant funds to reach out to the community in a variety of different methods. I'm going to take a minute and ask Gretchen to give you some examples of the organizations who are partnering with the city.
Thank you, Gretchen Hardison. Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. We're really excited. We got a variety of types of organizations who are interested in helping spread messages of energy efficiency and water conservation through their own methods to reach deeper for some of those populations we don't normally reach due our traditional marketing methods. Anahuac Youth Soccer Association is going to be one of our awardees, and they're working through that soccer organization to really spread the word throughout the communities, and they'll be asking youth and their families to participate in that effort. Hollywood Los Angeles Beautification Team is looking to conduct workshops and webinars and provide curriculum for local residents and students and businesses.
When does that actually get closer? I know the instinct is to go further away, but it's because we have to turn it up. If you bring the microphone closer to you, it'll have less feedback. Thanks.
Thank you. Los Angeles Conservation Corps is forming an energy efficiency ambassador team. The Valley Economic Alliance is going to be conducting pretty intensive workshops for the Valley business community. So we have a range of efforts looking at different segments of our population.
How we measure output? Is it like how many people they talk to? Is that enough? Or are you asking for any measurables beyond how many people they kind of touch and hand something to and say, this is what you do?
We have asked the Department of Energy, we're working with CDD to set up specific metrics which will count number of persons touched, number of publications, number of workshops, things like that. But we've asked each of these organizations to think of how we can see the before and after change, and they've come up with some creative ways of pre-post surveys or asking folks to agree that can we spot check with them later, or tracking to see if people who have been exposed to this information then go on to apply for a rebate for home improvements or business improvements. So we're looking at different ways of getting a little deeper into just, instead of just counting numbers of persons.
Okay. The on-bill financing, just a quick question. Any reason why we're just looking at multifamily and not a system for any single-family residents as well as multifamily housing to be able to look at energy efficiency and conservation improvements through the bill? I mean, we looked at this, I know, with solar, trying to figure out whether kind of the Berkeley model of financing through property tax, I believe, bills it was, wasn't it, or was? I think it was property tax bills, not the utility bills, but this is a ripe area that people are doing already in the private sector, kind of. I mean, Mar Vista, the example of when they're figuring out ways to kind of push the financing privately, it would be a great thing for us to be able to figure out for all of our customers. But is there any reason we just focused on multifamily housing and not businesses or single family?
The terms of the grant require focus on multi-housing, but that doesn't mean we can't look at single-family residents while we're looking at the feasibility of on-bill financing. We have a contractor that's going to come in and perform the study for us, and if it's something that is of interest to the council and would benefit to expand it, shouldn't be that much more, and we can certainly do that.
Okay. Let's follow up on that.
And we can, it's because of the scope of work is so similar, it should be absorbable costs.
And I mean, it's good you're doing multifamily. There's further complexities. It's probably the most complicated of them because of who's responsible, a tenant or a landlord, and I appreciate the approach that there's a shared approach there, but the other ones should be even easier to look at the mechanism.
And with respect to the single-family homes, one area of the grant investments that we pursued are the enhanced utility incentives, and that's the literature that was distributed just a couple minutes ago. Our focus last year when looking at this for the enhanced incentives to try to push the envelope, and as we know, much of the residential load is air conditioning, and to that end, we created new incentives for cool roofs and whole house fans, and we priced them a little higher than we would to try to get interest in the program. We put the literature out. We created the application that you're looking at. Because of a number of factors, that are most obvious, depressed economic conditions and a moderate weather last year, we didn't get the kind of interest that we had hoped for, and therefore the drawdown on those funds from last year has been slow. So this is an area that we need to calibrate. And we need to take a look at the existing programs of Department of Water and Power for our residential customers to see if we can leverage them to expend the grant funds. We're in the process of doing that. When we come back to this committee, we'll give you an update on the use of that bucket of funds.
I know we've got a lot of other departments to get through. I know Mr. Weston has helped lead the way with green retrofitting and the Apollo Alliance folks. Are they, for the nonprofit organization Energy Efficiency Retrofits, are they involved in this at all?
I don't
Are
believe...
you familiar with them?
I am familiar
yeah.
with them, yes. I'm mentally checking our list. I don't believe they are one of the organizations that we have on our list.
They're not necessarily an organization that needs the assistance. They're ones that provide further assistance, so I would recommend reaching out to them. I think they have connections into the building trades, into the community groups, in order to leverage out, A, who could be doing the work, but B, also, I think just the number of people you're able to touch, because they already have some funding themselves for that piece of things, so I think it would be good to connect with them, and I'm sure
Thank you.
Mr. Wesson's work would be expanded upon that way.
Absolutely. We will follow up with your office and see how we can partner with these grant funds and with the Apollo Alliance. The last piece is the nonprofit, the nonprofit retrofits, and we have a program that we are initiating through the use of ERA funds that we hope to expand outside of the scope of the ERA budget, and it's working with nonprofit organizations to retrofit their facilities. So we're leveraging the existing DWP audit resources to go to their businesses and look at the site and conduct an audit to determine what energy efficiency investments can be made. Of course, the low-hanging fruit is lighting, and we're going to pursue lighting immediately. That's underway. And when we come back to this committee, I hope to give you a list of all the nonprofits that have been retrofitted and the energy savings.
Excellent. Okay. Any other questions on the DWP stuff? Fellow committee members? Nope. You want to go to the mic?
One thing I was wondering, is there a list that identifies the nonprofits that have been successful on the community outreach, research, and public education?
There is. We can get that to you today.
Thank you. And if we could not only get it, but also, it looks like, 45 have applied. Is that the number? Am I accurate?
There are 26 organizations.
26. And if we could get that, and also identify the council district in which they're located.
Yes.
That would be helpful.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Bouncing around here. CDD. Any questions about the harbor programs, folks? There's 3 of them. Anybody would like to hear further from that? If not, folks come all the way up from the harbor? Come forward then. Come on. We can't make your trip for nothing. Yeah. Give us a quick rundown of...
Tell us about the Vancouver ride.
You carpooled, right? So you could come up the carpool lane in a natural gas vehicle? Good morning.
Good morning. John Holmes, Director of Operations from the Harbor, and we have 3 projects for a total of approximately $1.5 million. All of our projects are focused on getting new, clean technologies into operation as really not proof of concept, because these are new technologies that are commercially available, but proving to customers that these technologies are viable. So the first project is a interesting project, which is a retrofit of the educational platform that we have in the harbor, the Angelina. That's the boat that we take out school kids and things like that, and that's being converted to an electric propulsion system, sort of like a giant Chevy Volt on the water. And so that's
a hybrid, though. It still contains an internal combustion engine as well as a electric.
Actually, it's a battery-operated electric vessel.
So it's fully electric.
Not fully electric, because we have to get Coast Guard certification, we have to have a backup generator. So it does have a diesel generator, but it's been designed to operate for our operations fully on electric. So in a perfect sense, the diesels will never probably run, but they're there because they're required by our vessel is certified and they're required by the Coast Guard.
Okay.
Then the second project we have is a Class 8 large truck, which is a hydrogen electric hybrid truck, and that truck is going to be used for, I don't know if you've ever seen the transporter, the mobile exhibit that the harbor has, and that's going to, it's a hydrogen electric hybrid, has a range of about 400 miles. So typically we use the platform in and around the harbor, but sometimes we do go as far as Sacramento. So this will be, the focus on this is to show our customers and people that we come in contact with that this technology is real and is actually being utilized. And the third project is an upgrade to the electric trucks that we purchased earlier. The electric trucks went through operational testing, and they worked well, but range is always a question in our environment. If a truck can't run for an entire work shift, it can be used, but it's of limited use because nobody wants to stop halfway through the day and plug a truck in and wait an hour for it to charge up. So this money is being used to extend the range of these trucks so that they can get through an entire shift. Again, we will upgrade these trucks, and then they'll go into the terminals, and the whole idea is to prove to our terminal operators and our customers that this is a viable technology to use. So we've spent about 36% of the funds to date. We expect to be 100% spent out by September, which will be 9 months before the deadline.
Okay. On the last one, who's doing the retrofit or the conversion, rather?
Conversion's being done by a local company that is out of Santa Monica.
Okay, great. All right. I don't have any questions.
And the interesting thing about the boat project is we specifically are using our own workers to do the boat retrofit because what we've contracted with is for all the equipment and the bench testing, and then the company brings all the equipment down to the harbor and oversees city employees doing the retrofit. So this is interesting in a number of ways because very few people have actually done this type of installation in the world, and it will be City of Los Angeles employees will be one of those groups that will have that area of expertise.
That's great. That's great. Good. Well, and I think the third one obviously is the one where you potentially have the largest scalability, unless you're looking at at doing this with any more craft. On the first one, it's good the first two are good demonstration projects. I think the third one is potentially the place where we can get the largest scalability in the future, I assume. So is that the one that's going to go to September? Is that going to take the longest?
That will be the one that will go till September, yes. Okay. And that is, as you mentioned, it is the one that the whole idea is to prove that this could be done on a much larger scale.
Okay. All right. Great. Any questions from colleagues? Thank you for a long journey, especially both of you gentlemen. Your words were inspiring. Thank you. All right, let's go. Let's hear from the CRA real quick on the commercial retrofit program. Good morning, Jenna.
Good morning.
And the clean text. You guys have two things, right?
Yes. Yep. Good morning. My name is Jenna Gulicker. I'm the Chief of Strategic Planning and Economic Development for the CRA.
Sharon G., Assistant Project Manager, CRA.
So we've got two EECBG grants. The first is for the Clean Tech Corridor, and we are pretty much through. We've encumbered all of our funds, and we've expended 60% of them, but we'll be completely done with spending those funds by June. We funded activities related to the Clean Tech Corridor Integrated Strategy, including the Urban Lands Institute did a technical advisory panel that happened past June. We used the funds to support the briefing materials that we prepared, and that included a marketing study for the Clean Tech Corridor, infrastructure study, and urban design, as well as the cost to have the panel out. And this panel has gotten a lot of attention. It's really helped us focus our strategic efforts on the Clean Tech Corridor, and we are doing our best to move forward with the recommendations from that study. We've also expanded the amount of EECBG going toward the architectural cost and the lead feasibility for the Clean Tech Incubator site. This is a partnership with the Department of Water and Power. We'll be co-locating a Clean Tech Incubator alongside their research and development facility, and DOE did get a chance to visit this facility and was really excited about this portion of the project. And then the other piece that's already been funded was with SciArc. It was a feasibility, a small competition looking at urban solutions for the Clean Tech Corridor. So we think that was a really successful, exciting, and very forward-thinking use of the funds to support our clean tech efforts.
How is Clean Tech Corridor doing in terms of attracting new businesses or expanding existing businesses in the area to locate there right now?
Well, I mean, we've got a couple of large projects, the Clean Tech, the incubator site being one. We've been trying to launch our industrial incentive program as a way to recognize, and this goes along with the findings of the ULI study, that the kind of businesses we will be able to attract there are maybe these smaller, newer companies doing fabrication, but smaller scale, and we have this industrial incentive program that was approved by our board and this council and the mayor to help those businesses with capital financing, capital equipment financing, technical assistance. We're looking at our first business, actually, that's moving into the corridor. Actually, they do a distillery. They do, is that right? Distillery.
There's been a brewery there for years. But.
Yeah, no, they do actually like organically produced spirits, but they're looking to expand and create more jobs. So we're working to implement the strategy and doing business attraction, and there's a couple of larger projects. I'm not an expert on the area. We could report back because I don't work that project area, but we could bring back more. But we are trying to focus on the recommendations through the incubator and then doing kind of business outreach and assistance.
All right. And the retrofit?
Retrofit program. This is the bigger one. And this I'm actually happy to report because I think on paper it doesn't look as we've made as much progress as we have. We had several huge hurdles that were outside of our control. There were regulatory issues from the feds about how you can structure these kind of PACE financing programs. They were related to residential PACE programs, but they held up the ability to move forward on commercial PACE programs. We cleared that hurdle. There was then a legal challenge to the state energy program, the SEP funds, that held up the other half of this grant financing. We've got both EECBG and SEP funds. Those hurdles have cleared. We've actually got both of our grant contracts in place. And in spite of those hurdles, we were really able to be aggressive in our partnership with the Clinton Climate Initiative. We've got some great outreach and partnerships developed with DWP. We're working closely with their, is it the Premier Accounts Group, which are their largest account holders, to do targeting outreach to the Building Owners and Management Association, ULI, and U.S. Green Building Council to create partnerships and identify businesses to take on the funds and participate in the program. We did release the request for proposals and select a program administrator, and this is this is a $4.6 million contract. So we did a lot of outreach on this RFP. We had 115 people or companies attending our pre-bidders conference. We got 10 complete responses, interviewed 5, and we selected Wildan to be the program administrator. And this process is the crux of the program. The program administrator is going to create the web portal for getting people to apply for the program. They're going to provide technical assistance. And then we also rolled into their contract the energy audits. And the bulk of the spending on this program is going to be through providing the phase 1 and 2 energy audits to the participating large commercial and industrial property owners, because these energy audits will determine the cost savings and then encourage them to do the actual retrofits. So we will have that contract in place by March 31st, and actually with this contract we'll be expending $505,000 for program administration and also purchasing smart meters from DWP for participating building owners, and we'll hit 42% of our EECBG spending by March 31st with this contract. So we're actually poised to really take off on the program as soon as this contract's in place.
For the average business out there, where can they find out information yet? We're building the portal out as we speak. Is there any place they can go right now?
Currently, the website is being worked on. We anticipate that the program will launch around the end of April, beginning of May, and that website will have all the information there. The website will be part of the greater state effort of Energy Upgrade California. So this particular program is called Energy Upgrade Los Angeles.
Can you please let my office and the Chief Legislative Analyst's office know when that's live so we can push that out through the council offices as well? Okay. Colleagues, any questions on commercial building? Okay. Sorry to be so brief, but thank you. Glad that part is moving. That's going to be one of the larger areas for us to actually have some bang for the buck and some leverage, so thank you. Let's go to the Housing Department. Hello.
Good morning, council members.
Good morning. Quick question. Are you coordinating with DWP about the bill financing study?
Not yet. I would like to coordinate with them, though.
Yeah,
Yes.
if we can instruct that there be coordination, that would be
Thank you.
good. Go ahead. Sorry.
Hi.
Hi.
Krista Klein with the Housing Department. I'm working on the multifamily retrofit program. We currently have 15 loans being drafted. 3 of those have been signed. They are being recorded as we speak. So that work should start within the next couple weeks. Those retrofit projects. The other 12 are moving along very well. They're going quite quickly for the time frame that we have, which is good. Second part of our program, we did have a little...
And that piece is actual retrofits. We're paying for the retrofits themselves, or is it a similar model to the last one where we're auditing and encouraging?
The actual retrofit work, from light bulb change-outs to faucet aerators, new boilers, tune-ups of existing systems. I think there's a PV system and window change-outs. We did find from the audits, it was interesting that the quote-unquote low-hanging fruit was actually the best payback period, the best payback opportunity, so that's what we went with. Because of that, we did have a small amount left over on the fund, so about 2 weeks ago, City Council, thank you very much, approved addition to our scope of work to green our inspection program, our existing inspection program. We're calling it Gateway to Green. So our SCEP inspectors will be adding green criteria to their habitability inspections. We hope that the information we give the building owners will lead to more retrofit work, more audit work. So.
And how do we publicize and select the buildings that we're working on?
The 15? That was done through the third round NOFA from last year, the 2010 third round. It was the standard outreach that we typically do for the NOFAs.
So we focus it primarily on builders we funded? I mean, those are the people in that world as opposed to the mom and pops, I suppose.
That's who we actually thought were going to apply, but we ended up with we're actually funding more developers who are not in our portfolio. I think the ratio is 6 are in our portfolio, 9 are not. Okay. So we ended up with some that aren't.
All right, cool. Sorry, you were going to continue.
Yep.
The second program?
The second part of the program, we're starting to roll on that. We're putting together an advisory team. So if any of the city council members have suggestions for a team...
that's the Gateway to Green?
Pardon?
That is the Gateway to Green,
yeah.
Okay. So just to be clear on Gateway to Green, the inspectors will have kind of suggestions. It's not that they have additional code to inspect. They're just going to say, look, here's some things where you're losing efficiency, et cetera, and here's what to do about it?
Correct. And we'll hopefully have a good, robust incentive list to actually encourage building owners to make those retrofit upgrades.
And is that piece, is there any training going on between inspectors and DWP programs as well?
They do have a standing training program, so we are going to leverage that work that's already being done. We've talked to some of the inspectors one-on-one. I've gone out on an inspection to see what they already look at. They're pretty excited about getting this extra training on green so they can start into that area. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Questions?
Let me just ask, phase 1, does that exhaust the available funds, or is it an expectation we'll have a round 2?
We've exhausted the funds on that.
And the other thing is that when you said we went out, basically these are multifamily developers that came to us and said, I want to apply.
We did do outreach through the NOFA.
We notified people, but basically what we have are people who showed up and said,
yes,
I want to apply, and they fit the criteria.
Yes, we had 20 applications.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it, Krista. Street lighting. Hello. How are you, Ed?
Good morning, council members. Ed Ibrahimian, the Director of Bureau of Street Lighting. We received $2 million from this fund for LED retrofit, street lighting retrofit program, and we basically spent 100% of the money so far. Again, the program is, the difference between this program and our regular LED program is that this is for high voltage conversion.
Right.
That wasn't included as part of our previous LED program.
And those are more main street lights, or are they just some are higher voltage in the regular residential streets? Or are these the main boulevards and avenues?
It can be residential and also main boulevards. So it's just the city of Los Angeles. We have about 30,000 high voltage street lights and about 180,000 multiple low voltage street lights. And our LED program that we've been working on for the last 2 years includes 140,000 of the low voltage street lights to be retrofitted to LED fixtures. With this grant, we were able to include some of our high voltage street lights that weren't included as part of the initial program.
Okay. As a side note, your counterpart in Beverly Hills, Ara Maloyan, wants to talk to you about it because he can't seem to make it pencil out. And I said, trust me, it pencils out.
Yeah.
So they're looking at LED conversions too. So give him a call when you have a chance. I'll give you his info. I'm very familiar with this program, so I don't think I have any further questions unless Mr. Park.
I just want to tell you that probably the highest compliments we get, particularly where you place them in residential communities, and the sensitivity of how you have directed the lighting has been a very big positive. I just want to let you know, particularly Baldwin Vista area of my district.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Thanks for your patience this morning. We have GSD, and then we have item 2 as well. So GSD came in last today, but it was just the way that it was structured. Thank you for your patience as well. And I know this builds on some of the retrofit of our own buildings and some of the work that Mr. Wesson did with the Apollo Alliance as well. But good morning.
Good morning, Mr. President. David Pascal from the Department of General Services. We've received to date approximately $2.6 million to actually utilize this funding for the retrofitting of city-owned buildings. The program intent on the part of GSD was to identify the buildings that are not operating at optimal performance. Secondly, to determine the investment opportunities for improving the building system's performance in city-owned buildings. We looked at systems in each building, and we looked specifically at the building envelope, the HVAC system, the lighting, the building controls and automation systems. We are taking this project rather seriously, and we've up-leveled it so that we'll benchmark the results with the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. And we really are very, very happy to have created about 40 jobs for 40 participants who otherwise would probably be unemployed. And we started out working with the mayor's office on a program to have these individuals trained at LA Trade Tech. And now those employees have completed that training program, and they are actually working in various city departments involved in energy retrofits or energy conservation work. Sure. For instance, we have a number of them working with the Department of Recreation and Parks on the smart meter program, and they are doing exceptionally well in that department. We also have some employees working, obviously, in the Department of General Services on energy retrofits. And again, we identified initially about 15 buildings that we thought had the highest opportunity for us to save energy, and we selected 15 buildings from all around the city. But our goal is to eventually retrofit a total of 130 buildings with the initial funding that we're receiving, and we're in the process now of completing the first 15 buildings and moving forward now that we've validated the savings for approximately 100 buildings. So
So are those savings coming back? I mean, is this a rotating fund, in other words?
What's wonderful about the ARA grant is that when we retrofit a city-owned building, that's immediate savings to the city of Los Angeles. So as we move forward and look at the potential for city buildings to consume more energy, and we look at the obvious, which is looking into the future at potential increases in our utility rates, doing the building retrofits will mitigate some of those cost increases. So that's the reason why it's very important for us to move forward.
Is that money coming back to you?
This
to GSD? I mean, in other words, you're doing a great thing for the general fund. I'm sure our budget share appreciates it. We're going to have those cost savings. But I'd hate for you then suddenly next year, well, our funds have run out. We're not going to be able to hit the rest of the buildings, when in fact doing so would continue to save us money. So, if we use this more as a loan fund and we quantified somehow those savings, return some of it back to GSD to go to the next building and the next building and the next building and the next building, then we can do all of them. But do you have that capacity now, or is that something that you need in each year's budget?
Well, we're looking at the opportunity to reduce our expenditures in the water and electricity fund, but it would certainly be a very tremendous advantage for us if we could capture that savings and put that savings in an account to use it for future energy retrofits. And that's something certainly that the Department of General Services can discuss with the CAO's office, because that is a way to eventually retrofit all of the city-owned buildings and recognize and realize the savings immediately.
Well, you should quantify that in some way, make sure that you're doing that with those buildings, because, as Mr. Park's saying, there's a reduction in our water and our power bills in those places. So it's not going to look like new money, because suddenly it's just going to be fewer expenses for the city. But in fact, if for some reason we said to a different department or GSD themselves, we can't do any more buildings because we have no more money, we're going to lock in higher water and power bills. And so that difference needs to be quantified so that we can show that to our budget committee, our CAO, et cetera.
We actually are working with a consultant who has gone into about 96 of our buildings and validated that we're going to save at least 20% of the energy that is currently being consumed, and that's based upon kilowatt hours. And it's my understanding the consultant is going to extrapolate a dollar amount or a quantitative amount that's related to that actual savings.
Okay. Mr. Parks?
Because I think the criteria is you have to hit 20% to be a part of the program, right?
Yes, and that's the reason why we brought in a third-party independent consultant to validate what we went in the buildings and determined. Okay. And so from the list of 136, we've had 96 level 1 validations, and we're looking at some additional validations because we had about 37 buildings that fell out of that 130 because we need to provide some additional information. So the consultant is working with us to validate those 37 buildings as well.
And also, when will we actually see the reduction in the water and power bills? Is that after a year of the retrofit in place? Or when do we begin to see that? Because if we're dealing with a lump of $50 million that we're paying, it's hard to determine what made $50 million go down to $49 million. Are we able to track that?
Well, we're working with 2.6 million
but I'm talking about the overall bill that the city pays.
Yeah. Well, when we actually start the process of developing what we call a technical analysis of each building, the first thing that we do is get copies of all the bills for that facility during the preceding year. Then we go in and we do the retrofit. And at the completion of the retrofit, we validate that we achieved the savings. And immediately upon the achievement of that savings, we get a reduction in our DWP bill because the number of kilowatt hours or gallons of water has gone down.
Okay, but what I need you to look at is that if the $50 million we pay each year doesn't drop, even though you're doing all of this work, we're still paying $50 million to DWP each year. So we need to find, does that mean with all the success you're having that other buildings are basically using more water and power? Because that number doesn't seem to fluctuate what we pay as a lump sum.
Well, if we go into a city-owned building and all we do, let's say for instance, is to retrofit the lighting, you're going to see a kilowatt reduction in energy for the lighting.
I understand.
But if, on the other hand, that department decides to add some additional technology that requires electrical power, okay, then you're going to see a higher level of consumption for that specific equipment.
Okay, but what I need from General Services and working with the CAO, our baseline is that we pay $50 million. I don't think, break it down and say this building, that building. We're paying a lump sum in our general fund. So we need to correlate what you're doing to see that benefit in the overall general fund outlay.
Sure.
Okay, sure. So that's what we need, so that we can actually say we spent $50 million this year, next year it was $48 million, next year is $46 million. Otherwise, you may be doing a wonderful job on 96 buildings, but yet the balloon is bursting somewhere else.
Yes.
So that's what we need.
And we've had that experience, so that's a very good point. And we will work with the CAO to try to achieve that.
Okay. I'm going to unfortunately have to cut you off because we got a council meeting to go to, but thank you very much.
Okay.
Keep up the good work. We have one public comment card. Arnold Sachs, if you'd like to come forward on item number 1. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We canceled your leave, so I just want you to know.
Well, now that we can save the city all that money.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Arnold Sachs. 3 quick questions. The DWP personnel was stated that they were able to do some tracking via the utility bills. And I know Council has had before it questions regarding the utility bills for the public to understand their usage. Now, since we've heard that they can do tracking for green savings, have they been able to incorporate in these bills that the usage, so that people understand what their kilowatt hour usage is? And if not, why? That's question number 1. Or 2, the housing department you had that mentioned they had some loans. And again, the council had before it numerous questions with the budget, and banks that they're dealing with to underwrite loans are banks that are suing the city, or the city is in legal conflict with. So are any of these loans being put out or accepted or done with any of the banks that the city is having legal questions with? And finally, with the GSD, they mentioned city-owned buildings. So where does that leave us with parks and libraries? Because parks and libraries, according to the last budget, are now responsible for paying their utility usage. And I believe with libraries it's like $20 million, and I'm almost sure, I'm not quite sure, but Parks and Rec has the same high use of energy also. So are those, since they're city-owned properties, are those included in the retrofitting, and does that show a reduction in usage costs? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. We had closed our general public comment already before. Mr. Walsh, do you want to speak on number 1? That is before us? This is the specific programs that we have here. And then we'll take up the action on item 2. We probably won't be able to do a briefing today, but I do want to show folks, as Mr. Walsh comes up, our new graphs that are available online at the recovery.lacity.org website, which gives us the latest statistics on expended, obligated, and unexpended monies. Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. We support 1. We'd like to point out that it's 10 minutes after 10. The meeting is late.
Sir, do you have any other comments on this? Thank you. All right, that'll close our comments on that. I'd like to move the recommendations on item 2 that are before us. We have 2 recommendations for the CDD report, 1 to note and file, the report 2 and 3 to approve those. Okay? Without objection, so ordered, and this meeting is adjourned.